Casey.
And I'm Fallon.
And this is Render the Darkness, a true crime and paranormal podcast. And we welcome you here today. And when you are joining us today, we're going to be talking about some really awesome stuff.
Yeah, as always.
We always talk about awesome stuff. This time it's even more awesomer.
Awesomer.
Awesomer, made up word. Sounds like an animal.
It does.
What's in your yard? I guess one of them old awesomers running around. So we are doing a case out of our 50-state series today, and it is coming at you from Minnesota. Yeah. This is kind of a combo case because we had posted not that long ago on one of our social media platforms and asked if anybody had any recommendations for cases that they would like to see us cover. And ironically, one of the cases that was requested was for a Wendigo, or Windigo, however you want to pronounce that, which translates to evil spirit that devours mankind. That was one of the requests, and ironically, we just happen to be on Minnesota in the 50-state series, which is one of the main areas that these cryptids are actually out of, so that just kind of worked itself out for us to do both. So, Minnesota is a really, really interesting place once you dive into it. I was initially going to just pick a few cryptids that were known to come out of the state, but then I kind of started researching around, and it turns out that this state is just like a slew of just intriguing things. It's just this boiling pot of, I'm going to just say oddities. There's some strange things that have taken place in Minnesota over its years. So, that being said, I will let you know that this case is a little bit random. It's not strictly cryptids, it's not strictly one thing or another. I'm going to go over 3 different things, and they're going to be a little bit at random, but all just as interesting as the others. So, hopefully you stick around. Number 1, as I just mentioned, we're going to talk about the Windigo, or Windigo. I will be calling it a Windigo.
The Windigo.
Yeah. We're going to stick with Windigo for me, for my personal pronunciation. Okay, so they're probably one of the more well-known cryptids, in my opinion, just overall in the world of cryptids. Again, that's just my opinion. But for those that don't know what this creature is, it is a malevolent evil spirit that's often described as having human-like characteristics. It's, like most cryptids, there's several different descriptions. Some say it's skeletal with sunken eyes. Some say they never stop being gluttons, like they have an insatiable thirst and hunger. And that hunger is, human flesh. That's what they crave. Some say it's 15 feet tall with glowing eyes, yellow fangs, an extremely pungent odor, and a heart of ice. And, yeah, as I said before, all accounts say the same thing. It's cannibal.
Oh.
Yeah. And the fact that it's a cannibal is actually the heartbeat of its legend. As for the origin, it originates from and I hope I say this correctly, it originates from the Algonquin, who were an indigenous people of eastern Canada, and it's also said to be in the Great Lake region, the Minnesota Northwoods, and especially near, I hope I say this right, Roseau. And nowadays, most reports come from the Forager National Park located in northern Minnesota. Some of the stories of the effects of a Wendigo to humans, I said Wendigo. I said he was going to say Windigo. I'm just going to say it all.
You're going to say it different ways each time.
Whatever my heart feels like whenever I'm coming across the void. So anyways, the effects to humans and stories of how one becomes a Wendigo are that you get a feeling of uncontrollable hunger for human. According to legend, the spirit shows up when someone indulges in cannibalism.
Okay.
The idea behind the folklore was to kind of warn people about how dangerous the effects of starvation and isolation could be and what could happen if one turned against their own tribe, which for the time made sense, sort of. There were times when there just simply was no food, especially during like the winter season. Um, some say the creature lures its victims in with whispers. It's also said to drive men to madness. And hunters and trappers have reported hearing strange rustling and freaky, scary cries.
I'd be running from the forest.
I would also be running from the forest. So again, the point of the legend was to warn against starvation and isolation, but also to kind of warn against greed and gluttony and selfishness, especially in times of desperate situations. For example, as I said earlier, a harsh winter with no food.
But how would that really, like, be considered gluttony if there's, like, no food?
Well, because and even now, it's still believed that once it doesn't begin until you make the first consumption. So once you consume human flesh, it's believed that you just crave it.
Then
you continue to want it. It just the craving for it never goes away.
I got you.
Is the belief. Now, the Wendigo is unique in that it's usually tied to situations where someone was kind of forced into cannibalism, which kind of goes off my answer there. Doesn't usually start till somebody has actually committed the act of cannibalism, which is when it's believed, the Wendigo takes over and the cravings begin. Okay. This cryptid's also been tied to a psychological disorder, indicating that some of the ties to this cryptid may not have derived out of necessity entirely. The psychological disorder is called Wendigo psychosis, meaning or associated with cases where a person believed they were possessed by or turning into a Wendigo.
Okay.
Which is pretty interesting because I don't think I know another cryptid out there personally that does have an actual like psychological diagnosis to its existence that I can think of off the top of my head. So it kind of makes it unique in that.
Interesting.
Symptoms can include, but are not limited to, severe depression, intense cravings for human flesh, and a homicidal/cannibalistic impulse. And again, it usually happens in cases of extreme isolation or starvation. Some notable cases in history of Wendigo psychosis include a man by the name of Swift Runner. This case dates all the way back to winter of 1878, your favorite time frame. There we go. In Plains Cree, Alberta. Swift and his family were literally starving to death. In fact, his eldest son had died already. As a result, Swift would kill and eat his wife and their other 5 children.
Oh.
So I guess they had chosen to feed on the son to survive. And he died already. And he began craving human flesh so much that, from what I understood in the story, that's what I believe my interpretation was.
Okay.
However, it would later be determined that he didn't do this because of any means of extreme starvation. It was actually determined that he was fully aware of an emergency food supply 25 miles away from their location at the Hudson Bay Company Post.
So he just
literally let his family starve to death, or let his son starve to death,
and then made his family eat.
From what I understand,
their family member, and then
he killed them and ate them, and then
Wow.
When there was an emergency food supply 25 miles away from where they were that he knew about.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's pretty effed up.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Swift runner there. Another case of Wendigo psychosis was the case of Jack Fiddler. He was an OG Cree chief. He was known for having the ability to defeat Wendigos. However, supposedly this sometimes, in his mind, required killing people with Wendigo psychosis.
Okay.
And that resulted in Jack being arrested by Canadian authorities for murder, and he would go on to unalive himself in jail.
Oh.
His brother Joe was also arrested, and he would be sentenced to life in prison.
What did his brother do?
He assisted in capturing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, he participated there. This happened in 1907, which gives a general idea of how long the Wendigo lore has been around. So, what do you guys think? You think there's Wendigos out there, or are they just stories about or from people suffering from Wendigo psychosis?
I'm gonna say there's Wendigos out there, and there's also probably people out there with Wendigo psychosis.
You think it's both?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine stumbling upon a scene where somebody's...
Which, I mean, also what I was thinking of too is like if somebody, let's say somebody knows about this Wendigo psychosis and they just want to go out and commit cannibalism.
Could they blame it on that?
Yeah, it's like,
insanity?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like,
I mean, I think that if you're eating people, whether you're diagnosed with Windigo psychosis or not, like that in itself would allow you to plead some level of insanity, because that's not like a normal human nature thing to do in most situations. But again, the lore of this derived in a time period where, people legit, not Swift Runner obviously, but it was a time frame where, again, during like harsh winters, people legitimately had no food, and people would die of natural causes, or they would freeze to death, or they would die of starvation. And it's like, if you really are starving and you have a tribe to feed, women, children, whatever, and there's a food source, like, what do you do? There's been multiple cases of, plane crashes or emergency, or stranded in an ocean, or like emergency situations where, in order to survive, that was what they had to resort to.
Yeah.
And who knows? I've never personally eaten human flesh, and I hope I never do or have to, so I don't know if that triggers some kind of craving for it, or I don't know.
I'm going to say, like, if you have to do that, and you're like I don't want to say like a normal, but like you're healthy, you don't have any kind of issues or anything, and you do end up having to eat somebody to stay alive, I'm sure that probably does break something in your mind.
Oh, I'm sure there's some serious psychological damage for sure. I mean, and just an immoral aspect of it, you would, I would imagine most people would have to be literally on the brink of death to make the decision to do that. But yeah, that's number one. Now we're moving on to number two, and that is UFOs in Minnesota.
UFOs.
Extraterrestrials. That's my favorite thing to cover. I love aliens. Okay, so this state and many others have quite a bit of UFO reports. So this state in particular has around 2,100 estimated over the years. And they get an average of around 100 new reports every year, still to this day.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I want to see an alien.
Right? Who knows? Maybe you have.
Maybe.
So usually when I read a report of UFOs, like, I'm pretty skeptical, because a lot of them are, they look like a little bit boo-boo. I say 9 out of 10 have enough holes in them to kind of make me question the story, personally. Which, who am I, right? I've never encountered one, so I have no clue what that type of encounter consists of. So, I don't know. But I do know that, as I said a minute ago, I love aliens, and I'm a pretty big extraterrestrial enthusiast, so I have read a lot of stories, and I personally very much believe not only are they out there,
for sure,
but I also believe that it's very much possible that they're just walking around among us.
I kind of hope it's like Men in Black, to be honest. I really do. I think it'd be so cool. You're like walking down the road and there's like a little pug walking right there, and it's like an alien.
Alien pug.
Yeah. It'd be so cool.
Well, yeah, I just think that it would be, like, to me, it's just insane to not think that it's possible, just based on the creatures that we have on this planet. I mean, a giraffe. Come on. What's more alien than a giraffe? Or the sea creatures we have? There's some alien-ass sea creatures out there. I'm just saying, for all we know, there are aliens who have the ability to live underwater, and they've, like, shot down from another planet, and they're underneath the water, and, you still to this day, there's places in the ocean that they can't get to or go that far down in. Who knows the technology that they might have? I know, I sound crazy, but, I mean, it just seems insane to not think that it's possible.
Yeah, well, I know this doesn't have anything to do with the aliens, but since we're talking about, like, to the depths to where people cannot go, Megalodon. Okay.
Well, that's a dinosaur, right?
Megalodon?
Yeah,
It's a big shark.
Well, I mean, I know it's a big shark, but isn't that still considered a dinosaur?
Yeah, like it was from like way back in the dinosaur days.
But it still could be a thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
could still be. I mean, alligators.
I believe megalodons are still out there for sure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's still dinosaurs roaming around among us. So
yeah, birds.
Yeah. Who knows?
Off topic. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't care. But I wanted to kind of include in my case today a story out of Minnesota that I felt was legit. Like, you know, we've talked before in some of the paranormal cases, like, sometimes you just read a case and you just get this, like, instinctual feeling that, like, you're legitimately reading facts. Like, if you feel like this is an honest perception of what happened, it's an honest situation, like, there's no hoax to it, there's no falsity to it, it just... And that's kind of how I felt about this particular story. So I wanted to include it. And this is the case of Val Johnson. So let's talk about his UFO experience. So the reports come out of an area near Stevens, Minnesota, and it was made by Val Johnson, who was a Marshall County deputy sheriff. According to Johnson, he was on patrol on August 12, 1979 at around 2 a.m. Some reports said around 1:40 a.m., so just in case, I'm throwing that in there. But according to him, out of nowhere, he saw a beam of light, and it wasn't on the road, but it was just above the road, about 3 to 4 feet, he said. And he also described it as being around 8 to 12 inches in diameter. He started to drive in the direction, and that's when he said that the light began speeding towards him. And suddenly, before he knew it, his squad car was just like consumed in this beam of light. He said he heard glass breaking, and then he passed out. He said he was unconscious for approximately 39 minutes, and when he awoke, he was in a ditch. Some reports say he was in the road around 850 feet from where the light actually hit the car. Some reports say he was in a ditch, so I'm going to include both just in case. And he noticed that the car's clock and his wristwatch had stopped. Some reports say they stopped. Some reports say that they just slowed down. So again, I'm going to include both. But according to him, he noticed a 14-minute difference in the actual time and the time with his stopwatch and the vehicle clock. Now, when the deputies who he had called for help from were responding to the scene, Johnson placed a report upon their arrival, and the car, according to them, the car had been flipped sideways and the windshield had been shattered. 2 radio antennas were bent, and one of the emergency lights on top of the car, as well as the headlight, had been shattered. And some reports claimed that there was a large dent in the hood of the car. As for Johnson, he sustained bruises and had what doctors described as welder burns around both of his eyes.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was a visible red irritation around his eyes, but when they actually inspected his eyes themselves, they had been burned. So, as for plausibility, Johnson still doesn't know for sure what happened to him that night, whether it was an extraterrestrial experience or not, but he has not wavered from his recounting even after all these years. Like, still to this day, he gives the exact same details, the exact same story, nothing changes. And of course, like most reports of this caliber, for a while the incident was heavily reported and focused on, but over time, it kind of went away when new reports and news stories started coming in, which was just as well for Johnson. You know, during the hype of his incident, he'd actually gone on to ABC's Good Morning America on September 11th, 1979, where he had explained that the attention from the event was kind of causing a great deal of emotional strain for his family.
I can see that.
So as for today, he has good spirits about it. He claims that no one really ever talks to him about it or asks him about it anymore. It's now just kind of a memory of a bizarre experience he had. His car is on display at the Marshall County Museum if you want to go check it out. and he now lives a quiet life with his wife Roseanne somewhere in Wisconsin.
Well, that's cool. He put the car in the museum.
Yeah, you can go check the car out and examine it for yourself and see how you feel about it. Of course, there's, some people looked into it, scientists or whoever kind of looked into it, and it's kind of like 50-50 on the belief system here. Some people believe that he's being honest and it was legit and it actually happened, and then, you've got your other people who are like, oh, he did it to his own car, he did it to himself, whatever, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, even damaging your own car, yeah, sure, maybe you wrecked, maybe you flipped it, you didn't want to get in trouble, so you came up with some wild story, but what about the burns on his eyes? That he didn't do that to himself.
I would hope not. Oh.
Like, I don't know. I just, like I said at the beginning, this is just one of those stories where instinctually I just felt like it was honest. I just felt like it was a legitimate report in a situation that really did happen.
Yeah.
That's just me personally. But I believe in that stuff, so.
I understand. It's just like the what was it, the Navy? What was it, Navy? No. Can't remember. Anyway, it was either the Navy, military, I can't remember. There's a pilot, anyway, from back in the day that, he was talking about, he's seen some stuff too, and it's like, he seemed really sure that it happened, and I mean, he gave like all kind of details, and it's just like, I kind of believe.
Is he the one that was like flying and like the aircraft like came up above him and he like was reporting what was above him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is it that one?
I think so. But yeah, he seemed like I trust what he said.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've never met the man, but it's just like the way he was telling it was like like I think he's telling the truth.
Yeah, there's just some situations where it's like some reports, not even necessarily like UFO or aliens or just reports in general that people make, and it's like they don't gain anything from making it. In fact, they have the exact opposite happen.
Yeah.
It ruins their lives.
Yeah, they get made fun of.
They get ridiculed, they get fired, they get, some cases, extreme cases, they get thrown in mental institutions. Mm-hmm. They lose their families, they lose their homes, they lose everything. They become homeless. Like they don't gain anything out of making a report, but yet they don't waver from their story because they know they're not crazy. They know what happened to them. Right. And it's like it's hard not to believe those types of stories because this person isn't gaining anything positive from making these claims.
And especially since the government now has
yeah, kind of
let it be known that there are
some kind of something.
There's something out there, y'all. You're just now telling us.
Roswell.
Anywho.
Anywho, not credited, not credited. Definitely not credited on that one. Should I edit that word out? I'm not gonna. Okay, so moving on.
Comes up missing.
Sorry.
If we come up missing.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Okay, so my third story out of Minnesota. This one is not necessarily in our genre per se. I guess it's more of a natural phenomenon, I guess.
Just from the title of it, this seems right up our alley.
Well, I guess. We'll see. We'll see how y'all feel. You can tell me if you felt like this third story was in the realm of what we should be covering or shouldn't be covering. But I thought it was interesting and I wanted to include it. This one is the Grasshopper Plague of 1873. Also known as the Locust Plague. This happened across most of the Great Plains in the US and Canada, but for this particular case, obviously we're in Minnesota, so we are going to talk about the effects it had specifically in Minnesota. According to reports, on June 12, 1873, in southwestern Minnesota, farmers saw what looked to them like a snowstorm, and at first it was coming directly towards their fields, and then they heard the buzzing of a bunch of wings fluttering. So definitely not a snowstorm. It was actually swarms of grasshoppers, or as scientists called them, Rocky Mountain locusts. I know, I like that name. And within just a few short hours, their fields were completely wiped out by these grasshoppers.
That's not good.
Yeah. Now, they've had grasshopper infestations before, but never to this magnitude and never to the caliber of time. They usually only lasted like a year or a season tops. This plague would go on for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
In just the year 1876 alone, the grasshoppers would destroy over 500,000 crops over the stretch of 40 Minnesota counties. That's just one of the 5 years that they were destroying field after field of barley, wheat, corn, and oat. This was just a really, really strange phenomenon, and again, it wasn't just happening in Minnesota. Like, keep in mind, this was happening across almost the entire Greater Plains at the time. So the grasshoppers, they just kept laying eggs, and they were laying them too deep in the soil for the farmers to be able to get to. As they hatched, the numbers grew, and so did the areas being affected, not to mention the large numbers of grasshoppers that were all across the other parts of the Great Plains that were still just steadily flying into the state from the west. So these numbers weren't dwindling, they were just going up and up. And they were becoming really overwhelmed. The farmers, of course, were doing everything they knew to do, but nothing was working. There was just too many grasshoppers. They tried to drag heavy ropes across the field. They tried to plow them. They burned the fields. They released birds and chickens on them. They made what they referred to as hopper dozers, which was like a large sheet of metal that they had covered in molasses or sometimes tar, and they would drag those across the fields to try to catch the grasshoppers in pans that they'd end up emptying into fire to try to burn away the grasshoppers. Nothing to seem to make a dent in these massive numbers. So they reached out for government assistance. Some county officials tried to help, but they just simply did not have enough resources. No one was prepared for an infestation of this magnitude. It never happened. But in 1876, a man named John S. Pillsbury was elected as governor, and he had a much different mindset than his predecessors, which were Horace Austin and Cushman K. Davis. Their approach was what I think most government official approaches would be, which was to try to assert financial aid the best that they could. They did that, or tried to do that, mostly through donation, to try to assist the farmers with their crop shortage and to get them whatever supplies they felt like they needed to try to control the infestations the best that they could, or maybe move their farms or plant somewhere else, or whatever they could do to continue growing anything.
Right.
But Pillsbury felt that the poverty being caused by the plague was just a part of farm life. It just happens. And that if the state assisted with her relief, it would just make them dependent on the state.
Okay.
So he initiated steps to get rid of the grasshoppers altogether, as if they weren't already trying to do that. Anyway, what he decided to do was mandate that every man that was physically able in any of the affected counties had to spend 1 day a week every week for 5 weeks, focusing solely on destroying the grasshopper eggs.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that this worked, because I certainly don't think it did, but for whatever reason, in summer of 1877, is it 77? 67. I lost my year.
I think it's 77.
Oh, 77, yeah. In the summer of 77, so just the following summer after Pillsbury was elected governor. Sorry, I lost my numbers here. Anyway, in the summer of 1877, just as fast as they swarmed in, the grasshoppers just left.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, keeping in mind, the April before this summer, they'd been hit with a pretty big snowstorm, which some believe triggered the sudden fleeing, but, many others believed it was something else.
What was that something else?
A lot of people believe that it was a result of divine intervention, because also, ironically and coincidentally, the belief of the divine intervention came from the fact that Pillsbury had just proclaimed April 26th as a day of prayer.
Okay.
So basically they believed that when he proclaimed this a day of prayer and everybody prayed for the grasshoppers to go away, and then coincidentally, after 5 years of being plagued by it, when everybody devoted a day to prayer, they just happened to flee shortly thereafter.
Okay.
So,
hey, teach us their own. Believe.
So some people believed it was the snowstorm killing out the eggs and running off the grasshoppers, but a vast majority of people genuinely believed that it was because of him proclaiming April 26th, the day of prayer, and that everybody had prayed the infestation away. So they believe so many people prayed at one time that it took and...
Yeah, possibly,
who am I to judge? I wasn't there.
Me either. I don't know. But
I don't know. I might have felt the same way. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, back in the day, a lot of people were pretty religious. So
yeah.
Hey.
So I just thought that was a really interesting case, and I just kind of wanted to include it. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting.
And that is my Oddities of Minnesota.
Well, thank you for the oddities.
No problem.
That's cool.
There was so much more I could have covered.
And it kind of reminded me of the Great Emu War about like trying to get the government to help because there's so many.
Yeah.
And
the government was like, good
well,
luck. Good luck with that.
We'll try, I guess. But,
Yeah, Pillsbury was like, I just don't think you're doing enough.
I'm gonna make biscuits. I'm just gonna make biscuits. As soon as you said it, that's all I could think of.
I just don't think you're trying hard enough.
Oh, that's terrible.
Anyway, so yeah. If you have any other cases out of Minnesota that you would like to hear, or any other oddities you'd like to talk about or share, please feel free to reach out. We would love to read your story, share your story, have you on. You could tell your own story, however you want to do it. We'd love to know all about it.
Yeah.
And yeah. Other than that, thank you guys for joining.
We greatly appreciate it. And thank you, Mr. Decon from the Nightmare Roadshow.
Yeah, he's requesting the old Windigo. Yeah. Or Wendigo.
Got another one that he requested as well that we're working on, so yeah.
Yes. Hopefully you guys will be there for that one. Yeah. But for now, we will see you next time.
Yeah.